JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, September 19th, 3:15. And it's Friday afternoon. It's a really quick rant here. Not too much to talk about. I shouldn't say not too much, but market's going to close at all-time highs here, pending any kind of shenanigans. 45 minutes to the close. And then an interesting day for especially some of the names I'm in. SERV finally, I wouldn't say finally, because it's had some swings, profitable swings, but it's also had some dips, right? We had that Wedbush upgrade all the way up to 13 and then gave it back. And then finally, the last two sessions, boom, pay dirt. So hopefully that continues. And then some of the names I've been waiting for a squeeze, or had those lemonade calls. Well, still do until 4 o'clock today. For the squeeze, and it's finally doing it here this afternoon. It's up 7%, and it's like the noon hour. It's like everybody came back or went to lunch, and that's when they started buying, and the stock was at $57. It's now $4.40 above that level. So it's almost home. But just really quick on the market, I wouldn't call it a tight trading range, but you take a look what happened with the Fed meeting session was like a 1.1% trading range. Today's 0.47%. So almost like I would say back to normal. I mean, we had the tightest trading range of all time for 2025 at least on Monday with that 2.25% trading range. We'll see what next week brings. You take a look at yields. Yields are actually higher again. So I can imagine all the chatter over the weekend, everybody talking, especially when markets at highs. It creates this great opportunity for folks to create the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? It's a lot easier to fear people at all-time highs than at all-time lows, right? The markets are crashing down 40%. It's a lot easier to get folks to think there's a pullback coming when we're at highs. Market's going to close at highs it's never seen in anybody's lifetime, right? Or when we're down 20% at April lows. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of articles this weekend. Some of it the yields, some of it that warehouses are still have plenty of inventory that they've stocked up before the tariffs hit. All these stories I've been saying since April, since February, since March. At some point maybe that comes to fruition, right? I don't want to sit here and mock it, right? Because that's certainly, you got to be aware of all the scenarios. But for now, I mean, it's been proven that it hasn't been, even if there is an impact, it's been not as impactful as what was being said was going to be. All right, so that's overall markets. We'll see what happens next week. I mean, there's still some data next week, right? Revisions on GDP. Who cares about that? I think there's PCE data, so the preferred inflation gauge for the Fed. Again, I don't think that matters too much. And then you start looking at the CME Fed Watch, and it's pretty much now it's 2 rate cuts for the rest of the year. It's pretty much like baked in. And even if you go to December, barely anybody is talking about a jumbo cut at any time. So you would have to look and say, well, there's a jumbo cut on one of these months, which should be the next meeting or December's. And I don't think either scenario, pending any crazy data, right? All right, so that's kind of like overall markets and small caps, right? The same. It's funny, everybody gets on the small cap bandwagon yesterday with it closing at all-time highs, 4-year highs. Oh, small caps have more room to run. You read those headlines last night, this morning, and boom, you get a little taste of humble pie. I wouldn't call it humble pie, but the small caps have not been an easy ride. And even if you look at the chart, and I was saying this morning, it's like a thing of beauty when you pull it up, but it's because it's stair steps, right? So stair steps up. We're not going downstairs. We've been going upstairs, and even on those pulls, there's some decent pulls, but then even bigger rallies. So I would love to see some continuation next week on IWM and hopefully some breakout here. All right, so that's quick on some overall market. And then, yields too. I mean, just don't want to see this start to swing the other direction, right? So maybe just a little flatlining next week or lower would be ideal. All right, so that's overall markets. Just quick on individual names. SERV Robotics, continuation from yesterday. I mean, it's up 9% here. I think it was up 17% earlier. Stock went to $15. Hasn't seen that level since February, right? And it was in the 20s in February. Some of the reason the big fall in February was because NVIDIA had a stake. And I think some of the stake was more of just like one of those luck stakes. Right? So NVIDIA has done some acquisitions over the years. And because of that, these companies have stakes of other companies, right? And then OX is another name that NVIDIA, one day, I don't know if it was a year and a half ago, they point out their filings, the 13Fs come out, and NVIDIA has like a 10% stake in NNOX, and people are like, oh my gosh, NVIDIA got a stake. But it was like a passive stake. It was like they just got it on accident. And I have to look to see more. I don't know. So Postmates is pretty much the spin out for SERV. So that some of it, maybe it could be something from one of those little early founders and things like so. Seed investments, I don't know, but they dropped their investment back in February. And I think it was more just like a recalibration of things, not, hey, they don't believe in the model, don't believe in the stock or the valuation or the leadership or what have you, but stock tanked from the 20s And then you see all the way down April lows in the six, and now it's starting to come back. And then you see the chop, especially since July. I mean, 975 to $13, been a very tight trading range, and 1375, excuse me, and then boom, we broke over 1375. Knock on wood, it's 1397 right now. Was it 14 and change earlier today? Someone asked on FinTwit. I'm like, I'll just be happy. I'll call it a victory if it closes over 1375 today, because we see what happened with SERV has history of these open run. It's like people are waiting to buy it because they know it's going to be a $25 to $30 stock down the line. And then the bears come in and say, nope, not today, right? Like Dikembe Mutombo. I was looking to lock some more of my Octobers in, lock some more in for 400%. They were actually like almost $2, two and change. I think they were 230 at times when it was at $15. I'm just going to hold those because I think there's more continuation. Don't have many of those left. Lock some more of my January 20s in too for over 100%. Again, similar. Do I think it heads over $20? I think the calls I got them at 60 cents for January 20s. I see it can go to $25 maybe before January. If that's the case, and you're talking substantially more bags there. So, but there's risk, right? Risk reward. Nothing is certain, so you can't sit there and say I can't say without a reasonable without 100% certainty that it's gonna run. So anyway. But you could see never wrong, just early, and finally had that breakout. And it's funny when it gets to $20, everybody's gonna be on the bandwagon, just like Joby, right? When Joby started its breakout, I was bullish $8, $9, $10, $12, 15, 18, and then I was locking in on the way up, and that's when all the people come out. Oh yeah, I called Joby. I was long. Look at all these things, and they got it like weeks ago, or the week of the run up. So a lot of these folks do that now, and they'll post charts or whatever, but they just follow. Whatever. Not going to get to that stuff. All right, so that's SERV. I'll continue like that one. So riding some nice freebies. I'll continue to hold that. CDLX locked some calls in at the open that I got yesterday for close to 100%, and then it did what some of these like TDOC, right? And again, I was bringing this analogy this morning too. I mean, Citron Research. I mean, call me crazy. There's 3,000 stocks publicly traded, and this is the second stock this year that he's come on board after I've been long and touted it as a bull name, right? Call me crazy. I mean, what's the odds of that? It's like getting struck by lightning. Maybe I should go outside. There's no clouds out today, but maybe I'll get struck by lightning. But it's just funny. I mean, I'm sure I do these stories too, but our community has been around for like 15 years. There's been times where, and I have to go back in the emails, he signed up for our thing, but this is like 13 years ago. There's other people, the stock whale guy. There's a lot of people over the years that are on FinTwit have a heck of a lot more followers than I have now. I've been stuck at like 140,000 since Elon Musk did the reconfiguration on FinTwit. But there's a lot of folks now who have services and stuff that were in the community back in the day. So not saying they don't still follow or whatever. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. But I mean, it's like, what are the odds that he comes out with Cardlytics is not like, it's not a mainstream name. It's $120 million market cap, or it was yesterday. All right. So I was actually looking for later January strikes. I'm going to see how things shake out on Monday. Kind of disappointing here today. I mean, if you look at a chart, it's actually not that bad, right? But we've seen last time. The last time in July, I was doing the same thing, and I was looking, the chart doesn't look too bad. And then that was the last we saw of the highs. Take a look at the red sessions since the highs 320 in July. I'm hoping we don't have a repeat here. I don't think we will, because I think this has sticking power, just some consolidation. But riding freebies, I still have the October 4s too. And then thankfully I didn't add more strikes. I might look to get some more later next week. All right, so that's Cardlytics. IIPR finally out of the October strikes, closed the rest out for over 100% just a little while ago. It's just too much mental energy here. And if I think there'll be an opportunity if there's reclassification news to get back in. The ex-divvy dates on September 30th, so I'll keep an eye, right? If I see an opportunity, and right now it's at 57.54 or 57.52 is the last trade. 57.50, that's a big area. So it hasn't broke out. I figure once that broke, as we blue skies, and that hasn't materialized. Maybe next week or the week after. So I'll continue to look for opportunities there. Lemonade, I'm just posting in the chat room here. Never wrong, just early. That's my new mantra, new motto. Whatever, I'm going to get a shirt made. But sure enough, what's Lemonade doing? Last couple minutes of the day, it's almost like it knows I'm watching and wants me to buy the weekly calls next week so it can, so it can punish me come Monday and gap down on no news or catalyst. That's typically what it will do, right? There's two things that'll happen. I won't get any position, and the thing's gonna be $75 on Monday or $80. I do get a position, and it's gonna teach me a lesson, right? That's just how it works. So half of me wants to get, I was looking at the 66s, 65s for next week, but it's like, I'll just be patient. I mean, the market's always open. If it's not, then we have other issues to worry about. But you look next week, the 66 are dollar by dollar 10, but they're up 135%. So the trade would have been me to get the calls when it was 57 bucks at noon hour, as opposed to trying to chase it here as the premiums have skyrocketed. So I'll just be patient. Still like this one. I mean, it's another one of those FOMO names, similar to what's going to happen to SERV. SERV's going to be 13.75, then it's going to be 18, then it's going to be 25. Same thing I think is going to happen with Lemonade. Lemonade's taking the short route, I mean the long route, right? It ain't taking the shortcuts. But at some point it starts to break and it's going to be 70, 80, 85, 100, 150. It's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but when it does, want to make sure I'm in the calls on that one. That's Lemonade. And then other names, Duolingo, flat as a pancake here today, chopping between gains and losses. I keep bringing up, bounced plays and misunderstood stories, and MDB is just another great story that, had great earnings just like Duolingo did, and then it just couldn't hold the earnings gap and run on its first earnings try, right? Then the second, it did the gap and run, and then the rest is history, up a couple $100. Maybe some deja vu with Duolingo. So maybe I'll just be a little patient and look to get some calls to encompass earnings. All right, let's have a great day, great week, and I'll be back rock and roll.